Welcome back to another edition of AGI Schools Out Saturdays, where we talk about preparing students for their future, not our past. You do not want to leave this one today because we have two young ladies who've been part of the Richmond Tech team. I heard them speak the other day. Absolutely phenomenal work they're doing. So I have their lead instructor, Jeremy Hill, his daughter, Sophie Hill, and then Maren Bolson. I believe I'll just let you all introduce yourselves and tell what grade you're in and what got you into tech team, and we'll get into to the conversation after you all introduce yourselves a little bit.
So I'm Sophia Hill. Jeremy's my dad, so that was like kind of my into tech team. But I think I really did find community in here and like became friends with people like Maren. So it's super fun.
Yeah, I'm Maren Bolser. My in was long time ago, like 3 years ago. And I'm now a college going into my sophomore year. So when I was here, I had a couple friends that were in here, and then my dad knew Jeremy, so I was able to come in here and there and then
Awesome.
found people I liked.
Jeremy, you want to tell us a little bit about the history of the tech team and where it's at today?
Yeah, so this is the 10th year for the tech team, and we were looking to do something like big and crazy because it was going to be the 10th year, and we really didn't know what we wanted to do. And then we've done a bunch of work with Magic School, and we ended up winning the Magic School AI Educator of the Year award. And so that really blew everything up. Typically, we do like one kind of event, be a webinar or a conference, some kind of presentation each month. And then we have about 30 kids that are in the tech team and probably 7 or 8 that rotate through that do the presentations and stuff. But then once that happened, the numbers went way crazy. And so it's been a great ride. We started out just with being like kind of a community service group in the high school. We do work on Chromebooks and stuff like that and pass out loaners and things like that. But what makes us really different is we really focus on professional development. So the students help lead the professional development, not only in our corporation, K through 12, mostly at the high school just because of travel, but we do go to the other buildings. But then they also do a lot of conferences, a lot of webinars where we train teachers and talk about AI and really all kinds of technology.
That is awesome. And I love I don't want to dive too much into Magic School because I know you guys did an interview not too long ago that I will post a link to, and you talked a lot about Magic School. It's phenomenal vertical AI tool. But I do want you to talk a little bit about how you red teamed Magic School before you introduced it, because I think that's a great way to approach kids with a technology.
Yeah, Maren was here for that. We got Magic School for about 2.5 weeks, and we got to. Well, I'll just let Maren tell you about that.
Yeah, so Mr. Hill kind of put it out in front of us, and nobody in the school had used it before or really knew what it was. And he put it there and he said, he told us that he wanted us to break it. He wanted us to make it do stuff that freshmen in high school were gonna do and try to get it to send things back to us that were um not school appropriate. And we sat there and we used it, and our people tried to break it as best they could and couldn't. And so it kind of built this like almost trust in it from Hill's perspective, but also from ours to tell our teachers. And then within that 2 weeks, we were also able to use it in our classes. So we had our own tech team room and we could go to our classes, use it, and start to figure out how we were able to tell the other students how to use it when it got launched into our full school. And also, like he said, we worked a lot with teachers on it too. So sharing how we were able to use it within that 2 weeks made them a little more comfortable making that jump into using and integrating AI into their daily, letting their students use it.
That is so awesome. So basically, he said, "See if you can get attacked like Snapchat's LLM," and it wouldn't do it. And I've had Carissa Swanenkamp on the show. I'm a huge fan of Magic School. I think it's amazing. But what I really love is just how much your school is embracing this. I think the state of Indiana, uh, up until this year, hasn't really embraced AI as much as I would have liked to see. And in the past year, we really seemed to start to embrace it at the workforce development level and at the school level. But I want to hear from you young ladies. Like, there were three graduation commencements recently: the University of Arizona, Central Florida, and Tennessee, where when the commencement speaker started talking about artificial intelligence, the crowd booed super loud. Like, why does your generation collectively dislike artificial intelligence so much?
So I think that there's just a big divide between there's students who will use it like how we use it at Richmond to assist in our learning. There's students who'll use it just as answer machines, just to, pass whatever assignment they're working on. And then there's those students who really disapprove of it because of things like the environmental factors or how it takes away and plagiarizes different art and writers. So I think that just that large scale of that spectrum of just the public opinion over AI is really, I think, the driving factor for those kinds of reactions. And I think once you get to those higher levels of education, like at those strong universities, that's where you get into people who are less excited to embrace AI because they're afraid of things like that, the plagiarism and the academic dishonesty.
I
That's a
would
good.
also,
Go ahead.
sorry, I would also, the way I think about it is we, like my age of people, Sophie's age, were able to get in high school learning opportunities with it. Especially here, we were very fortunate to have people like Mr. Hill that were teaching us how to use it in the right way. And moving into that age of college kids did not get an opportunity to learn how to use it in the correct way or in a way that was beneficial without the negatives of being generative or plagiarizing things. So most of those kids did use it as answer machines because they didn't understand what it was. And so I think it will be more accepted with kids my age and younger that we're able to see it in high school and younger and learn how to use it as they're learning how to use everything else, because these are our times to grow and learn before we then have to write papers and not plagiarize them.
Yeah, and this is a super cool point because, Soph's going into her junior year of high school and Marin into her sophomore year of college. So they've really got to see the two generations of this. In November, AI as we know it in education will turn 3. So it's a very short period of time. Just like you were talking about the onboarding process, Indiana was definitely ahead of the curve early on working with companies and things like that. And then you're right, the big spread has really happened in the last year. And I think a lot of that pushback is because of what they're saying. You have a massive gap in AI training. So here at our school, we always talk about the way we test it is, are you using AI as a thought partner or are you using it as an answer vending machine? And so that's how you can tell if you're using it correctly or not. We went to a local school a couple months ago and did PD for their staff K through 12, and they had never had any kind of tools, no Magic School, no School AI, no Brisk, none of those things. So the only vision that their teachers had of AI was fighting Snapchat AI on students' phones and things. Because the liability there is if you're having students use any of the open, chat GPTs, anything like that, there's no safety net behind that. You can't see what the kids are doing. It's not through an educational lens. So those teachers are very hesitant to do that because it's really putting themselves and their kids in a bad spot. So I think what you're seeing is a huge equity gap in AI already, and it hasn't even turned 3 yet. So I think that's where a lot of the negativity comes from. You're also seeing a lot of negativity from adults. And I think that we're not doing enough to talk about our adult problems as well. So I see a lot on my social media feeds about screen time for young kids, no one-to-one for K through 2, stuff like that. And I think that that's an interesting point too. But we have to remember that in 3rd grade, they're taking a massive test in Indiana, and that test is given via technology. So we want to make sure that our kids are comfortable with technology and they're not learning how to use the tool as they're taking the test, because then you're not getting just results on academics, you're having an equity issue there. No doubt that screen time is an important topic, but we have to get the adults in. So what Tech Team has done, one of the coolest things we did this year, we had the Kiwanis Club come in, and the age range from there was probably in the 70s through the 90s. And so they got to use AI as students, and it was awesome. Like they loved it, and they got to see how different it is from ChatGPT and the stuff that they hear on the news. So they got to use it as a student. They got to try to trick it into giving them answers. They got to use it to learn, and it was great. And then we also did a session at Earlham College where we had all of the nonprofit business leaders in town. I think we had 50 or 60 businesses. They came in and we talked about how AI is used in education. And then we talked about how AI could be used in business. And they got to see the difference between those two. So I think that that's why in Richmond we don't get a lot of pushback, because if they have questions, they'll reach out and then we give them a chance to experience that. So I think that's super important that you let all of the stakeholders experience so they know what that's like.
I think those are great points. I have been teaching at the Wabash Area Lifetime Learning Association for 3 semesters now. A bunch of retirees how to leverage AI, and they absolutely love it, and they're so inquisitive. And the social media point, I think, is one that we're trying to learn from. I've read The Anxious Generation. I know that we made a mistake with that. However, this is a technology that is going to change the way that we work and live in a way that social media would never have. So I like that you're being transparent about it and that you're approaching it. I would love to hear from Marin. What university are you attending?
Wittenberg University in Springfield, Ohio.
Okay, another thing that another statistic that has come out is that 29% of Gen Zs, 44% of Gen Zs, and a lot of young people in the workforce are reporting that they're sabotaging the AI at their companies because they're afraid it's going to take their job. Do you hear more on campus of a concern of job loss or not entry level jobs, or is it more like data centers are sucking up all our water and AI is making us dumb because we're cheating with it?
A little more of the second. There isn't as large of a concern from us right now. I'm also young, so maybe a little more concern in the people going into their senior year or recently post grad. But I think it's just important to remember that as long as people are learning how to use it without, I mean, I don't know. I personally don't see it taking. I heard at my sister's graduation, she is in the arts and she just graduated from University of Cincinnati. And their provost talked about how there was the technological revolution way back in the day, and everybody was scared that robots were going to take their jobs and all of this stuff. There are certain things that robots and technology cannot do. And yes, I do think eventually it probably will lower some job rates, but if you're in the right market, you don't have to be concerned. Does that make any sense?
Yeah, I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
Now, I think, so from the adult, like, so I always think about all of these students as being my kids. And my number one job is to make sure that my kids are prepared for a workforce. And we've talked about, you opened the show talking about how we're teaching them for their futures. And I think that that's super important. Matt Miller always talks about looking through tomorrow glasses. And I think that that's a great way to look at that. And Matt has a ton of good stuff on AI out there. He's over on the other side of the CA. Does a great job. And so we talk about that a lot. And, in education, we always talk about the continuum of learning, that you never stop learning. And I think AI makes that even more important, because I do think it's going to eliminate some entry level jobs. But the thing I'm most concerned about is if you don't have those AI skills, you're putting yourself at a huge disadvantage to the rest of the world. You look pre-COVID, the book, The World is Flat. I think that's obvious. COVID showed us that. The job market has changed through that. So I want all of my kids, no matter what jobs or careers, whatever they're doing, I want them to be able to continue to learn, and I want them to be able to get in the door and then lead once they get there. And so we have students that have gone into, we've got a kid that just graduated last year and he's already working on jets with the Air Force, all the way to people that want to be professors, people that are actors, all kinds of different things. But that skill set and that continuum of learning is super important.
Agreed. And then that brings up a question. Sophia, I'll throw this one at you. We're starting to question, like, what is the point of K through 12? Like, what is the actual function of K through 12 school? So, Sophia, if a 10-year-old walked up to you tomorrow, if you had a little brother and he said, "Why do I have to go to school?" What would your answer to that be?
I think for me, it's definitely obviously it's about building those fundamental just educational skills. Like you have to learn how to read and write your basic numbers and then obviously like that basic mathematical stuff. But I think more than that, the lower education, primary education is most important for students learning how to form social connections and just those kind of soft skills that really can't be taught by AI. Because that's another thing, or people are terrified that AI will take the job of teachers, But that's not going to happen because AI will never be able to replace the social aspect of a teacher and student relationship. And that's my thing. Like, I do believe that K through 12 is so important for students to learn who they are, how to interact with the world around them, and then just, yeah, form those super important connections.
I love that. Lauren, do you want to take that one? If your little brother came or a little sister came up and said, "Why do I have to go to school?" What would you tell them?
I think exactly what Sophie said is right. I also think learning how to learn is a really important skill to have. Um, when you're young, you're learning those primary skills. But then when you hit like seventh, eighth grade up into high school, some of the stuff you're learning, like in my field in the future, I don't think I'm ever going to need to know y equals mx plus b and find the slope of a line. But I learned the process of learning a skill by doing that. And that's the same thing we're doing with teaching people how to use AI. Regardless of if I love it or I hate it, it's in the world and it's being used by everybody else that's competing for my jobs in the future. And if I don't know how to do it, then I'm behind. So Mr. Hill has taught us how to learn the skill of AI. So I you learn how to learn when you're younger, and then you continue to learn bigger and more challenging things when you get older. So it's important to go to school and it's important to have relationships with teachers. And in our community, it's really important. Like we see teachers that make really strong connections with students and get them out of trouble and get them into a better spot. And so AI can't replace those connections.
It's interesting too because we people talk about us all the time on the technical side, like the any of the programs that we work with, the different companies and stuff like that. But we spend
Well,
way
let
m-
me. Can I interrupt you real quick, Jeremy? Because I actually wanted to friend you. You're headed toward the question I wanted to ask you.
Yep, you're
All
good.
right. So one of the things that I see is that schools are hoping that these workforce development programs will teach kids AI, and a lot of these companies are hoping that the kids will bring AI to them because they're trying to navigate it themselves, and they're like, "Oh, young people, maybe they can get like whose job." How realistic is it for the workforce? What can they expect a high school graduate to have along the level of aptitude? And then whose job is it primarily to teach these kids how to navigate such a powerful technology? Is it the workforce? Is it the parents? Is it the teachers? Is it three parts? Well, I'll throw all that at
Well, that's a big one right there. Yeah. So, I mean, I think that the questions that we're asking today are not much different than the questions that we've asked before. People see us and they think about technology. And it's funny, in one of our presentations, we have a slide that says what people think we do. And it's a picture of people working on Chromebooks. And then there's a picture of a list of what we actually do. And so much of that doesn't have anything to do with technology. It's about soft skills. It's about people skills. It's about networking. It's about communicating. For example, one thing that we joke about all the time is kids Soph's age today are scared to death to talk to somebody on the phone. Whereas you and I grew up and that was no big deal. That's all you did. But now they email, they text, they do all of these things. So the social skills and that communication piece is massive. So sure, we could say that we expect them to learn that at home, but we know a lot of times that falls onto the schools. And then what businesses expect, I think businesses are expecting the same thing. They want people that can be good teammates, which is a whole separate skill, but they also want people that can lead. And so in here, I try to have all of our 30 people lead different things and they pick and choose what they lead. We do a lot of things that are kind of like genius hour projects. Lauren has a really cool one where she ran this entire basketball camp, blew it out of the water, did all kinds of amazing things. Soph is in our presentation group, but we have kids that they do fundraisers, they do charity stuff, they lead the community service portion of the work for their school's athletic teams. But I think that's what businesses want. Because if you hire the right people, then they're going to be able to pick up any kind of skill that they need. And that's what we always talk about. We want our kids to be those people that they can hire and know that they're going to figure it out. So um, what that looks like, I'm not sure. Now I work with some colleges about AI there, and I know that in interviews, those questions are coming all the time. I'm getting requests for AI portfolio stuff. So I think that's interesting. It's also interesting to me too that we always go back to the default. So we need a portfolio for AI. Well, that's probably not exactly what we want. Show me what you can do with AI, but don't tell them you want a portfolio because then let them be creative. That's another thing. Use AI to you want to create rather than consume. So those are the kinds of things if I was an employer that I would look for, but I wouldn't put them in a box and say, give me a portfolio. But that's what's going to happen.
Well, and I would love to talk to you about that offline at some point because I've heard that too, right? At one point in time, I also heard like give them your GitHub connect, and then I started like vibe coding and got a GitHub account, and I'm like, well, there's no way that a non-technical employer would know what the hell a GitHub account like. So what? What is it? What is any of this, right? So what
Yeah.
that portfolio actually looks like going forward is an interesting conversation. But I want to flip this on its head a little bit for the young ladies because I also think about the democratization of this, of the gains from this technology, right? So if I can use this in my job to be 40% more effective, right? What is the next generation coming in? What do they want out of that? Do they want more money? Do they want more free time? Like, what is the ideal of what this technology may open up for us? Or is it just going to be the company raises their expectations and they take all the profits? Like, if that doesn't happen, how would you ladies, would you rather have only work a 4-day week, or would you rather make 30% more on an entry level salary? Like, how could that look good for you?
I can um, uh, I had a business class that discussed a little bit of this, because it's so prevalent in jobs where we're learning how to, do this stuff before we get there. So, I think it depends on the person. It also depends on how well you're informed before you get there, um, because there is no program that teaches it to you. So, I have a different training and background than anybody else at my school does because I'm the only person from Richmond at my school. But then they all also have different things that they're better at than I am and that they're worse at than I am. And so I think it'll be interesting that if you're AI trained or certified, what does that mean? Like, there's no basis to being AI certified or trained. So, yeah, it would be nice if I got a 4-day work week or I got a better salary to start. But also, like, who's to say when somebody gets that and when somebody doesn't? Because we're both using ChatGPT to do something, whether it's generative, whether it's being a thought partner. Like, who's to say the rules of that?
Plus, that's an interesting thing. I think COVID really changed the way we look at a job because before everybody was so used to going in for 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, and physically being there. Well, then during COVID, you saw a shift to work from home. And so that opened up new opportunities that hadn't been there before. And so that kind of blew open the paradigm. And so because they're not in the full time workforce yet, I don't think they've really seen that. I didn't see that because this is my 28th year at Richmond. And so for 28 years, I show up Monday through Friday and we do this. Well, then I do contracting work too. And that's
Mm.
completely different. And so you negotiate how much you make, you set your own time. So those are like two completely different ends of the spectrum. But I think a lot of times we get trapped into whatever bubble we're in at the time and we don't really think about that. But COVID, along with AI, those are two massive shifts that have happened pretty quickly. And so you're seeing some fundamental changes there. Plus, I think public education has really changed in the last 10 to 15 years because you have public school offering online schools, internships, halftime, all kinds of alternative programs. So you have a lot of different parts that are moving and changing and creating some interesting opportunities.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, you're already seeing in consulting and things like that from a consumer basis, people are saying we're not going to pay you an hourly rate when we know it takes you like 2 hours to do what you used to bill for 20 hours because you're using AI. I just haven't seen the reverse conversation, which is if I'm sitting next to somebody who's not leveraging Claude and I am, and I'm now 60% more productive than the person next to me, like how does that change our pay? How does that, or if the business is twice as profitable, like do the employees get any benefit from that, or does the business just keep getting more profitable and we still expect a 50-hour work week out of everybody? That I think that's a conversation to be had going forward. I love the school model thing. I wonder, are you all familiar with the alpha school model out of Texas?
I don't think so. What one's that?
So Alpha School, they're out of Austin. They're all over the place. They're a private school now. They're all over the coast. They go to school. They start their day. None of their teachers most of them are not even certified teachers. They're coaches and mentors. They get no less than $100,000 a year as that. They spend the morning in a Tony Robbins style pep rally. Then they spend 2 hours sitting in front of AI on individual learning that is seeing them do really well on tests, and the rest of the day is all activities based, team building. Like it's not standard classroom at all. Now it's $60,000 a year, which is not cheap. And if you're $60,000 a year, then probably the people who are coming to your school started with a pretty good start, and that could explain away some of their high testing. But it is a very interesting model.
Yeah, and I think AI is really the first time we've ever you're either going to have a gap or you're really going to balance things out. So we talk about how AI for the first time ever, when I was in school, if I had trouble with my math, I had to go home and hope that my parents knew how to do it. Well, now we can create chatbots, all of our teachers, and they can attach their own material to it. So when Soph goes home, she doesn't have to count on me for math, which is really good news for her. So she can get the teacher materials and the teacher created bot that might even have part of their personality with it. And she can learn from that at home, and she can practice problems, attach the things that she's doing and do that. And this is the first time in education really where every child has had that opportunity, assuming that they have access to technology at home, which for the most part now you can even do it through your phone. So that is super interesting. But then you have that alpha school on the other side. So the question is going to be, is it going to increase the gap or are we going to close the gap? And we'll see how that plays out.
Do you ladies find that it has affected your critical? Like I find it as a thought partner has made me think a lot more and a lot deeper, but I also like don't just take out of the box answers from it. I worked for nonprofits, right, Jeremy? And so I've tried to convince them for a long time, like you can build a tone, voice, and style guide so that what an LLM produces sounds like your company. It doesn't have to sound like all M-dashy and Chat GPT, but you have to actually think about it when you're working with it. You have to give it rubrics. You have to you have to do evals on it. Like, first off, on the tech team, I'm sure that probably a lot of people do that. Do you think the majority of kids are using it as a thought partner and making them better critical thinkers, or do you think they're just kind of like, well, now I can get this done, like those of us who read the Cliff's Notes instead of the whole book back in the day?
So I think it definitely just depends on the environment that the student is in. Anybody that's in tech team and has been properly trained on how to use these tools will use it as a thought partner to further their learning. But a student in a different class that hasn't had that same training may just make what we call a business decision and use that AI strictly as an answer machine because they think that the assignment isn't helping their learning or it's just too difficult and they don't understand how to do it and they need the answers quickly. And I think that that opens up just the issue of academic integrity. And at a certain point, it boils down to, does the child want to learn the material or are they just using AI to coast and grab that like free grade in a sense?
One of the things, he was in my grades, he's not at the high school anymore. One cool thing that he always did was he used Magic School. There was like a tool, what was it? Like, why is it relevant?
Oh, make it
Make
relevant.
it relevant.
Yeah.
And he loved that tool because he hated his math class and thought it was the stupidest thing he was doing. And then he thought one day, well, let me make it relevant to what I'm going to do in the future. And so he put in there what he was doing. He made it relevant to what he was going to do. And all of a sudden, he kind of had a different outlook on what he was doing because he realized, oh, like I'm learning how to learn a new skill. Even though I don't need to know this specific math coding, I am understanding why I'm doing this. And it made him not want to just plug it in and get answers, and it made him want to learn the material. So I think, like Sophie said, wanting to learn something is important, and having AI tell you why it's important to you is a cool way to use it rather than just having it give you the answers when you're really interested in what it's saying.
Yeah,
That-
that's a good. Yeah. Oh, go ahead, Jason.
No, you go ahead, Jeremy. Go
So
ahead.
there's a lot of ways that students use AI that adults don't think about. And so it's not all about getting answers. It's about getting ideas. It's about answering questions that they have. And I think as adults, we kind of do that anyway. A lot of times we do it with Siri and Alexa. But it can even be better done when you've created your own stuff and run it through like a bot that way. So I think there's a whole nother world there of how students are using AI that adults don't think about.
I also think nowadays, like, I mean, I see it with my parents are kind of old, and and with my grandparents a lot. They're using it without knowing that they're using it, right?
Oh yeah.
Like, there's, I have some family members that are very against it, um, but then they still use it because they don't understand that it's throughout their whole device. Like, regardless if they love it or not, they're still using a phone, so they're using it.
Yeah, the Facebook rants about how they would never use AI,
Right.
and meanwhile, what do you think that data center is powering? Like, it's
Yeah.
powering your rant right now, and all the ads that are coming through and all of that. So
That's an amazing point. And there was a 23-year-old that I've had on the show a couple of times. She's a friend of mine, but she was always on the like CO2 emissions thing. And so I looked it up, and TikTok emits causes way more CO2 emissions than large language models at this current state of time. But I guarantee you she wasn't going to stop using TikTok. But I promise I wouldn't just argue with people on how wrong they are on some of their points. I like the points that you bring up. I love them, make it relevant. I also, like, I was terrible at math when I was a kid. I was always a good writer, right? I do encourage people to use it for whatever they're good at first, but then you can really offset. Like, I've started to try to learn how large language models work underneath the hood. And if I'm listening to an audiobook and I don't understand physics or math of it, I'll just be like, hey, ChatGPT, take this topic and talk to me like I have an 8th grade reading level and explain it to me. And you can ask it as many times as you want, in many ways as you want. And suddenly you have like this tutor that I'm not embarrassed because nobody else is in the car to realize that I don't understand it. Right. But it's teaching me at a level where I can start to scale myself up. I love that use case for it.
yeah.
Um,
Oh, go ahead. You're good.
No, I was gonna say it's goes along with what Mr. Hill was talking about, balancing the playing field. I have a learning disability, and so you were able to show me some stuff in Magic School that helped me summarize and help me understand better really long passages that I was trying to read it during my senior year, and I ended up needing it again this year and reached back out and got a Magic School login again this year. But stuff like that that balances what people used to not be able to balance and would really struggle with is another really great way to use it that's not taking advantage of it.
So that's a super great point. So my kids that are in college, and they're all different. Some of them are obviously already out of college and in the workforce. So my current freshmen and sophomores that are in college, they are used to Magic School. Well, they're at college. They have no one watching them. They can use any kind of AI that they want just to get answers. And so it's interesting to see because I had lots of requests about, I really want Magic School because I want it to break it down and teach it to me rather than just get this answer because I need to know how to learn this. So we set up rooms for the college kids so that they could use that. And it's been such an interesting way to see the progression and the thought process of kids at different age levels. And one of the most important things is you have to directly teach it. The kids have to experience it. And like you were saying, Jason, it's really important that they do it with something that they're interested in, because once they see how it works and they do it right once, then they can apply it to all different situations. And a little prompting hack, like we were talking about, teaching it like an 8th grader. But then you can also give it your boy to show, like if you love WWE wrestling, you can say, teach it to me like I'm an 8th grader and I'm a huge WWE fan. And then it will give those characters and it will tell the whole story, and it's highly entertaining and you learn it. And so that's a really cool way to learn difficult material. And so it's interesting to see that whole process and how that works.
I've told people be careful about that because if you say teach it to me like I'm 8, it will actually use analogies like you're an 8-year-old. Like, well, the zebra did, and I'm like, okay. I started using my like reading level as the part, but Notebook LM is a great tool for this. That is the one out of the box tool that I think you can have things recreated in audio. I would much rather listen to somebody present stuff to me via audio, or you can have it in video. You can have a conversation using retrieval augmented generation that's not going to hallucinate. I can't say enough how much I love Notebook LM. So outside of, go ahead.
Yeah, we use Notebook LM in here. What the one thing, the way we got started on it, we needed to promote and do social media for our presentations, because when we're rolling into a presentation and we're high school kids versus the Stevie Franks of the world, Matt Miller, all of those, and we're trying to draw a crowd, like we have to promote. So we would take our presentation and attach it to Notebook LM and build the podcast out of it. Before other people started doing that. Now everybody does it. So we have to make sure it's kind of interesting the way we do that. Note is a really good tool that's out there now too. They have a really cool podcast feature in that, but Notebook LM is super cool. The way you can organize it, the way you can put all your stuff and have it teach it to you, ask questions about specific areas. So yeah, that's a great example.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And you guys were the highlight of the last AI symposium I was at. So Stevie was there, but and she's great. But you guys were your team was the highlight. Outside of Magic School, ladies, what is your favorite AI tool, and how do you most frequently use it?
Man, that's a hard one because really for anything school related, I do just jump straight to Magic School. Um,
Canva,
I don't use Canva AI that much.
but
I don't
this
either.
it's AI. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we
I'm
use
with you on that. I love Canvas still, but their AI sucks. So
yeah,
Yeah.
we used to use it for pictures, but then Adobe is inside of Magic School, so we use the Adobe stuff now a lot of times for that.
Honestly, I would say outside of Magic School, it is ChatGPT just because that's what comes easiest for me to use. When I was studying for my AP Euro exam, I actually had Magic School give me questions in an AP SAQ style so that I could practice answering questions in that style. But I just answered questions about like my favorite TV show that way. So that is a good example of using not Magic School, but still using that for an educational purpose.
I use chat. I mean, it's the easiest one for me to like understand. It was the first one that I started using before Magic School, then got into Magic School while I was here. And now being out of the high school, I use chat, but so does everybody else. It's uh very rare that you ask somebody like what AI they're using, at least at my college, and they don't say chat. Like that's the most common one to be using.
And I think part of that is because chat is free. Like most, if not all of its features are available on the free version, even though you do get like a limited number of image uploads or image generations. That one's the easiest to use because it's free. Like I see tons of ads on Instagram for other AI study tools, but it'll all be like free for 24 hours and you have to pay. And I mean, nobody wants to pay for that.
Yeah, and chat seemed to blow up like on TikTok and places right when AI kind of blew up.
When it came out, basically. Chat was
Right.
like the first widely available site,
Yeah.
wasn't it?
So I think we're all kind of like used to it
Mhm.
at this point. So I would say most kids use chat.
I will say that the freemium model has really increased collaboration, because when somebody runs out of their number of anything, they all work together like, hey, I need you to do this for me because I'm out of so many, send it to me. And so the collaboration to get around, so to not have to pay, top shelf. So
yeah, I will say, my 15-year-old daughter, the proudest moment I have had with her, she came to me last year and was like, "Dad, I am starting to use ChatGPT. I'm not cheating." She was like you. She's like, "I promise." But then about a month and a half later, she came and wanted me to fix something on her phone. And I was like, "Claude, you're using Claude, huh?" And she's like, "Yeah, it doesn't tell me what I want to hear. It tells me what I need to hear, and is much more functional." And I could not agree more. I would try the free instance of Claude. Have you guys gotten into like Codex or any of the agentic workflow stuff with ChatGPT yet?
I haven't.
I haven't either. My schoolwork has been light enough up to this point that I really haven't like needed a major AI tool like that outside of honestly math, for which I would use the Magic School Tutor feature.
yeah, it's interesting. So like when we were in high school, we might have had a couple dual credit classes. I always tell everybody that high school is much more like junior college now. And it used to just be the junior and senior year. But now with the new graduation requirements and stuff, it's really the sophomore, junior, and senior year. So we used to do things in here where I would try different things in different kinds of AI and we would compare that. Well, really right now they'll be like, Hill, we don't have time for that. We have to get all of this done. All of these things are coming in. So we haven't done that as much because it is like a shift. High school really is junior college these days. So it's kind of interesting.
Yeah, that's another question I have. Do you all think that university is going to continue to be like a 4-year degree is going to continue to be kind of the go-to for most people, or do you think micro credentials are going to be more of a thing and certifications or trades? Like, is that conversation being had? I know I have two kids that are both college graduates as well, and they're both glad that they're Boilermakers. But I also hear, others talk about college being really expensive and them not getting as much as they had hoped out of it sometimes. What does that sound like? Adults can theorize on what kids are thinking all the time, but I like to hear it straight from you all. Like, what does that conversation sound like amongst you and your friends in this day and age?
I know for myself, since like none of my friends have really graduated yet outside of Mara and then people that I met through tech, a lot of my friends are looking more towards those like technical diplomas and degrees. And our school actually does have like an EMT program where you get a lot of that basic foundational knowledge for stuff like the CNA way early on. So I think that a lot of our students therefore do go into things like cosmetology or nursing where it's a much shorter path. But I don't know, Mara, what do you think?
I think regardless of what level of education in higher education you're looking for, um, like Mr. Hill said, high school is where it starts. So if you're thinking, if somebody like Ozzy wants to go to, where is he, Belden?
Don't.
So he's working at a manufacturing company, but he got his training while he was in high school. I got my ICC done in high school, so I had my gen eds done when I went to college. So my plan was to go to college for 4 years and then get my master's after, and his plan was to go straight into the workforce. But we both got our college learning started, and he got it finished while he was in high school, and mine just is planning to take longer, right? So it depends what level of education you're looking for, whether it's gonna be, I don't think colleges will start going to a different model necessarily, but I do think you're gonna see either, like kids like me, it's gonna be way easier to get your master's quicker because you're getting a lot of this college education while you're in high school. And then other people will be able to be done within 3 years and get into the workforce faster. I think it's a great system.
So they gave some really cool examples. Cody, who went into the Air Force, he's working on all kinds of amazing things with jets and the computer system. And he really liked the back end, the taking apart the Chromebooks, the doing those kinds of things. And he's in there full time, rocking and rolling, made it through the training, basic training, and all of those things. And he is loving life. And then, like Martin was saying about Ozzy, he went in to work for Belden Wire and Cable. He's in the factory side of it. And this is my 28th year in teaching, and I have a master's degree, and Ozzy will make more this year from his job than I will. And so I do think that you're going to see a shift because what's going to happen is Ozzy's going to get training as he works through Belden. And, he's in on the lower level right now, you would say, but that's ridiculous because he's doing amazing and there's all kinds of things that he can do to move in different roles throughout that company. He doesn't have to run a machine for 25 years. And he has those skills and he's going to continue learning. So that's a great example. I think if you look at a college if let's say the colleges are stock, I'm buying the Ivy Techs of the world and I'm
Mhm.
selling the traditional 4-year schools of the world because Ivy Tech has a large presence in high schools. They're tied directly into that new graduation program. Kids love those. They start working right away. They get hired by a company. The company can bring them in at a much higher rate than their normal walking through the door employee. They're already learning how to learn. And in 2 years, those people, like at the hospital, they can be an RN. Ivy Tech in Richmond designed their medical facility to look exactly like the rooms that are at Reed Hospital in Richmond. So our kids do their program here at Richmond. 2 years outside of it, while they're working at the hospital and going to Ivy Tech, they become an RN. And so the college debt is nothing, and they're already making great money. So stock up on your Ivy Techs of the world, stock down on traditional 4-year. But I think you're going to see those traditional 4 years adjust, and you can argue that they already have because IU and Purdue, for example, have a large presence inside of high schools where kids are helping to learn those ICCs as well. So although structurally it doesn't look different, there is a shift there.
Yeah, I would agree with you. I think that do you remember when like ITT and DeVry were a big thing back? Well, you were probably real low, but when I was young, and so like certificates like that are going to become probably very valuable again, and the Ivy Tech style is going to be. I do think that universities are going to be held a little more to the fire to actually produce a degree that gets people into the workforce. But the flip side of that is when you and I were up until right now, a bachelor's in philosophy wasn't worth the paper it was written on unless you were going to be a teacher. And there now, with some of the AI ethics and stuff, like some of these humanities degrees are going to become valuable that weren't historically valuable. So I do think it's going to depend on subject matter, but I love that there's more choices. And the thing that I didn't have when I was a kid was any of that kind of workforce development stuff where I was introduced to what a career might look like as a kid, because I definitely think I would have made some different choices had I explored something other than the restaurant industry when I was a teenager.
Yeah, and you look at like the example that Marin brought up about Ozzy being at Belden. So he can communicate with the people who are on the floor in the factory who are just starting out, but he can also communicate with the administration that's at the office level, and so he can teach them about AI. He can teach, and so having that human ability, same way with my guy in the Air Force. When you have the technical skills and you have the personal skills and the ongoing learning skills, I mean that's really the trifecta right there. So as an employer, that's the kind of people that I would want to hire because not only are they great in their current role, they're going to grow with the business and help the other people around them grow as well.
I would agree. Martin, I have a question for you because I have another theory. I have lots of theories, right? But I grew up in the 80s when PCs first came out, and I had a couple of friends that were like kind of nerdy kids that had PCs, and there weren't even many gamers back then. Like you could pretty much pigeonhole people who were going to become software engineers. Like they look the look and walk the walk, right? Call them eggheads, whatever you wanted to. I'm jealous of them now because they're all making tons of money, and that was a great way to go. But I have a theory now that with AI, that's not necessarily that there is no cookie cutter tech person anymore. Like kids who are interested in solopreneurship or entrepreneurship may be way into AI. Kids who are into marketing may be way into AI. Have you seen a change? And Jeremy, I'll ask you this too, because you've seen it for longer, but have you seen a change in the eclecticism of the landscape of kids who are interested in technology?
I think sure you're interested in it a different way because it's specialized to your field. But like in my experience, I am never going to switch what I'm just not interested in it. I can use it and I've learned how to use it in the right ways and I use it in my specific field, but I took a coding class in high school and it was my least like I hated doing it because I'm not good at that. And it's never going to be how my brain functions. And so unless my whole job is putting it in AI and putting it back into something else, I'm not going to be good at it. So I think the understanding of it is still going to be there. And I think some people for sure are going to be putting it into their work. And I mean, I'll still be using it in my future, I assume, in my field, but in different ways than coding and being really into the technology of it because I'm just not good at that. And so I think people will either realize, oh, I'm not good at this, or they'll realize this is kind of cool. I think I could be good at this now that it's in a different form.
Yeah.
So what people ask a lot of times is how do kids get in the tech team? And one of our goals is we want when you walk in the room and you see like group pictures, which are the hardest thing ever to get because they're never together as one. We want our team to look like our high school. So we have every kind of kid imaginable in our high school that's in tech team, just because of what Marin said. It's different for every kind of person. So it's important that you have that because you want to show other people how they're using it specific to them, not just we're doing AI because we're doing AI. So that's really kind of the thing there.
And I think, like you said, you were like, you could walk down the street and see like that guy's into computers. I think that's very different now. I don't think that being AI proficient has one specific look. Like Marin said, obviously there'll be people who are going to specialize and you could maybe pick them out of a crowd. But it's also like Mr. Hill said, when you walk in a tech team, I mean, like I'm a cheerleader, Marin plays basketball, we've got band kids, choir, dancers, just everybody from all different groups in tech team, and we're all equally invested in AI, and you would never guess that from how we look.
Yeah, I think that's so cool. So let me throw one big philosophical thing at you guys, and then I have a couple rapid fire questions, then I'll let you go. This has been an absolutely amazing conversation. But Google I/O was last week, which is Google's annual, like when they come out and talk about all the things that they've just released, right? And Demis Hassabis, who is kind of their lead AI scientist, who's not known for making big inflammatory statements the way that Elon Musk and Sam Altman and some of these other guys are, right? Demis ended his speech with, I think we're going to look back on this time and realize that we were standing in the foothills of the singularity. What do you think the timeline looks like for this stuff? Is the world going to look different in 5 years, or is all the people who are saying that, are they are they just trying to sell something to make some money? I would love to hear from all three of you on that, starting with the girls.
I think that that's
So I think it's tough for them because they're so young that they don't have that wisdom yet. They don't have as far to look back on.
I also think in our youngness, like half of my life almost has been different because of COVID. Like
Mhm.
the world changes really quick for me because of COVID and AI and all of these new changes. Things spread faster now. And so I probably the world will be different in 5 years, but it also maybe isn't because of AI and it's because of this new big thing that's going to happen in 2 years. Like, I don't think anybody can predict that, especially us. Like, all I know is big change.
And they've never, ever since they've been born, they've always had YouTube. You and I remember when the internet became available. We remember Wikipedia being a big thing. We lived through Netscape and all of those changes. Now, I always tell my kids this, like, in 5 years, I always say 10, maybe it's 5. No one is ever going to believe them when they talk about what they did in high school. Like, we're working with this company in Australia called Typed by Hand. With the time change, their founders have to get up at 3:30 in the morning to meet with us on a Google Meet at 11:30. Magic School, when we look back, it will be old news at some point, and no one will ever believe that they were communicating directly with engineers to give product ideas when we were testing it at the beginning. What was that, 2 years ago? Like, they won't even think that it existed then. So I don't think that we can conceptualize this. And I think that he is correct. I think this is a fundamental shift. I think it's as fundamental as getting the internet in homes. Um, and so I think he's accurate. And I don't even think that's hyperbole. So it's kind of interesting.
I've kind of gathered my bearings now. I do think that yes, life will look different in 10 years, but just like Mr. Hill said, like with the internet, it wasn't the end of the world. And I kind of think of it as like the Y2K scare. Like, it's like, yeah, this is a big, scary change, but it's nothing that we should be absolutely terrified of and thinking like this is going to replace our jobs, it's going to replace teachers, everything's going to look different, because I just don't think that's true. My math teacher talked about when like the TI-84 calculators came out and how all the math teachers went crazy because they were like, what? They, they need to know how to graph these parabolas. What are we going to do? It's a tool and it's going to help us. And the learning's not going to go away and jobs aren't going to go away and humanity won't disappear. It'll just look different.
Well, for what it's worth, I honestly think we are exceeding Moore's law and improvements right around, and things are going to look a whole lot different 5 years from now than they. But I think that I love that you kids be prepared for it regardless. I really like it. Change is just the norm attitude that maybe our young people are brilliant enough. You know, we're always worried. I can remember when millennials were going to ruin the workforce when I was young, because I'm a Gen X. We were just sure that they were lazy and entitled, and they were gonna, and actually all they've really done is make like a lot better workplace that cares more about employees and has made a better work-life balance. So I'm sure that your generation will more than endure. Whether or not people my age can deal with the amount of change that we're going to have in rapid succession is a different story for a different day. But in closing, along with my gratitude, because this has been an amazing conversation, like if you could, each of you, if you could say anything to your choice, a parent, to the parents out there, to the teachers out there, the kids out there, like what message would you like to give in this time?
I always say on the Magic School stuff that I've done, don't be scared of it. AI is a tool and learning how to use it's really important. And if it's used in the right way, it's a really huge benefit to each individual that's using it. So don't be scared if you're a teacher to teach kids how to use it. It's not gonna replace you. If you're a parent, don't be scared that it's ruining your connections. And if you're a kid, don't be scared that I don't know, kids really aren't that scared of it, I don't think these days. But don't be scared of it, right? Like adapt and grow. Don't be scared.
Yeah.
I would say definitely for my peers, it's important that they start learning how to use these tools now because, like we've talked about, that gap, we already see it, the gap in AI literacy. And I think that our students just really need to grab a hold of it now while they have these tools provided to them and learn how to use it productively and not just as an answer machine.
And I think I'm not worried about the kids at all. I'm way worried about the adults. And I think the first step of what you do is what we do here in our building, in our district. You you give the problems to the kids. You let the kids solve the problem, and then you let them spread that solution. When you have student ownership, you have way less problems. And when you do have problems, you get quick solutions and you get high buy-in. It's just like a successful business. If you lead with top-down mandates, you're going to get what you build. If you lead and have an organic, like where everyone is involved and we're all part of the team, then that's what you're going to get on the output. So one of our biggest presentations is your school needs a tech team. And I am so tired of doing that presentation. They love it still. I hate it. I never want to do it. When people ask, I always try to say no. She always says, yes, we're doing it. That's our favorite. But it drives me crazy because you just have to do it. And I just don't see people doing that. So give those problems to the kids, let them figure it out. They'll take care of it.
That is such a good one. One of my favorite Zen sayings is in the beginner's mind, the possibilities are limitless. And in the expert's mind, they're very finite. And I could not agree more. We are in a point in time where we need some beginners' minds to come to the table and just imagine what could be.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep. Great point. It's a great line.
Hey, thank you all so much.
Thanks for having us. Yep. Anytime.
Thank you.
Things just get real. Looks like this dude's riffing on 11 labs. Is this guy using 11 labs? And I wonder what model he'll work with next week? Yeah, ride that wave.